At 5, dramatic body camera video shows the moment a driver goes toe-to-toe with an officer during a traffic stop. That East Point driver is now charged with trying to disarm an officer.
Fox 5's Doug Evans walks us through the body camera footage of the traffic stop that started with a suspected DUI and took a violent turn.
Peachtree City police say that 52-year-old Harvey Johnson was being pulled over on suspicion of DUI. The officer reported that he saw Johnson's car weaving in and out of his lane and that he took a turn wide and almost left the roadway.
Now, how many of you guys think that that's petty? Hit 1 if you think that's petty. You know, why is the cop busting this guy's kahunas, man? All he's doing, he swerved a couple times. He made a wide turn and almost left the road. It happens. Why is this cop messing with this guy? You know, it's petty, man. Just, swerving a little bit all over the road and driving crazy. Well, here's the thing. You pay taxes, I pay taxes. What in the world do we even have cops for if they're not going to pull this guy over? Because, yes, this guy didn't hurt anybody yet. But what kind of logic is that? And who cares if this guy got pulled over? Like, we got to start really looking at it like this. Like, I don't care if somebody gets pulled over. I don't care that even if this guy got beat up by a cop, I don't care. I don't care. We give every brother who has an interaction with a cop that goes viral, we give him the same, stature and acknowledgement and care that we give public dignitaries. It's like the Pope came to town every time a brother gets jacked up by a cop.
The officer reported that he saw Johnson's car weaving in and out of his lane and that he took a turn wide and almost left the roadway. The officer's body cam video shows that Johnson immediately is out of the car as the patrolman pulls up.
Don't ever do that. Never do that. Never, ever do that. Okay? I did that once. What was it? The year 2000 in Virginia. Got pulled over, got out of the car. The cop was like, no! Don't do that. They pulled their guns and everything. They was like, no! Get back in the car. Then he came back over to the car and was like, later on, it was like, don't ever do that. We're not expecting you to do that. We come to the window and talk to you. When you get out of the car, we have no idea what you're about to do. You're lucky you didn't get killed. I was 18. No, 22. I was 22. Never do that. That's not the routine. That's a glitch. It goes like this. You get pulled over. They turn on their lights. Woo, woo, woo. No, first, they get behind you. They turn on their lights. They turn on their sirens. You pull over. They pull over behind you. They get out of the car and they walk up to the window and talk to you. That's how it goes. 99 1,900 times out of 100,000. Okay? That's how it's supposed to go. When you pull over and you hop out the car, he thinking you about to shoot him. Because that's what happens a lot. People shoot the cops. Okay? And incidents where cops get shot, which is very rare, but in the incidents when they get shot, it looks like that. So now you're doing what happens in a lot of instances where cops get shot, instead of doing what happens in a lot of instances where nothing happens. So you've basically just put yourself in a situation where this cop is on high alert. His adrenaline is now rushing. He's scared. He's a person. Remember that? But never, ever get out of the car unless you're asked to get out of the car.
The officer's body cam video shows that Johnson immediately is out of the car as the patrolman pulls up. The audio is laced with numerous obscenities on the part of Johnson, so we've turned that down. But from what we could hear, it appears that Johnson was very angry about being stopped and, in his words, followed by the officer. The officer instructs him a number of times to get back in his vehicle, and at one point, the video showed Johnson trying to push past the officer, and he gets angry and upset by the officer for touching him. When the officer tries to detain Johnson, the video shows an apparent struggle. The officer's body camera is even knocked off and knocked to the ground. We pick up the confrontation from the nearby motel security camera, and that video shows a very intense struggle between Johnson and the officer. At one time, the two men fall to the ground, with Johnson on top of the officer. The video...
Also, some drunk dude ain't driving on the same road as you. And we give these people a hard time for doing this job. This guy's doing this so there's not some drunk guy swerving all over the road, possibly harming you or your family while you're driving on the road. This is what they go through. And because of this, all cops are racist, and this guy is basically like the next Martin Luther King. Wow.
That video shows a very intense struggle between Johnson and the officer. At one time, the two men fall to the ground, with Johnson on top of the officer. The video then shows Johnson trying to get away and get inside the hotel lobby and lock the door on the officer. The video then shows Johnson in the hotel lobby with other officers arriving, and it's during that time where Johnson is accused of trying to take one of the officers' tasers away from him.
Man, his body cam fell off, man. They try and set the brother up, man. Try to say he grabbed their taser, man. Man, why they lying on that brother, man? They always lying. Well, I believe that lie, man. I believe that brother tried to grab. The way that brother was acting. See, one thing about it. When you a sudden man, people ain't allowed to use prior actions, observations, findings, statistics. You can't use none of that against a sudden man, because that's racist. But you can't even use like his prior actions in the same interact, like what he did, because you got to remember, Floyd was in the back of the squad car handcuffed, kicked his way out of it. Rayshard Brooks failed the breathalyzer test, failed the field sobriety test. was being handcuffed. Jacob Blake was on the ground with the cop fighting, was tased several times by multiple cops, was given a litany of commands to stop. Okay? All of these guys were dead wrong, and it didn't matter. So this guy, now off camera, now the cops are saying, well, this guy grabbed one of our tasers. Even though we've seen him hop out of the car, argue, fuss, fight, tackle, because the way they phrased it was a struggle happened and he ended up on top of the cop. And now you want to hear a bunch of pro-blacks talk about some conspiracy that they trying to frame him, that saying that he now grabbed one of their tasers. That's the world we live in.
Johnson trying to get away and get inside the hotel lobby and lock the door on the officer. The video then shows Johnson in the hotel lobby with other officers arriving, and it's during that time where Johnson is accused of trying to take one of the officers' tasers away from him.
One of the officers has his taser out trying to cover him. The offender reaches back and grabs hold of the officer's taser and attempts to remove it from his possession. The officer is able to maintain control of that taser and remove his hand from it.
Eventually, with the use of the taser and the struggle of 3 officers, Johnson is taken into custody. He's facing numerous charges, including trying to disarm an officer and simple assault on him.
What happens if you get an offender bender with this guy and you pull over and it's, time to exchange information? Since everybody's riding with him and the cop's the bad guy, how that's gonna work out?
Eventually, with the use of the taser and the struggle of 3 officers, Johnson is taken into custody. He's facing numerous charges, including trying to disarm an officer and simple assault on an officer. Peachtree City Police say there was also a 10-year-old little girl in the car with Johnson along with her mother. That little girl is accused of cursing at officers, spitting on them, throwing rocks at them. She's also accused of knocking an officer's body camera off of them, picking it up and smashing it to the ground. They're not charging the 10-year-old. Instead, they're charging the mother with being a party to the child's crimes.
Okay? They criminalize our children. Even though we've debunked that here. This is a little girl, man. Little girl. Now look at what cops have to deal with, man. Look what cops have to deal with. And this is why I tell you, I would never want to live in a Sun country. If a country completely run by Sun people, I would never want to live there. Because they view this as petty. They wouldn't want this to be, they would just want to let this guy ride all over the road and swerve and make wide turns, and he's obviously inebriated. I mean, I think that's clear by now. And this little kid right here will be going to school with your kid. Think about that, man. Your kid in class with this kid and a bunch of kids just like it. That's why I would never want to live. If y'all want your own country, they should give us Texas or give us a piece of land and live us our own country. Okay. I'm going to stay here with the white folk, man. Y'all go on. Could you imagine a country 100%? Well, it would be 24 hours before they were invaded. Countries would be in line to invade them. You want your own country without the United States Army? Okay. But anyway, if you want your own country, let's just pretend that every country in the world would instantly invade them. This what you want your kids going to school with? A classroom full of these?
Peachtree City Police say there was also a 10-year-old little girl in the car with Johnson along with her mother. That little girl is accused of cursing at officers, spitting on them, throwing rocks at them. She's also accused of knocking an officer's body camera off of them, picking it up and smashing it to the ground. They're not charging the 10-year-old. Instead, they're charging the mother with being a party to the child's crimes. The mother is also being charged with giving police a false identification. In Peachtree City, I'm Doug Evans, Fox 5 News.